You ever notice how time doesn't really warn you before it speeds up? Like one day, things can feel slow, routine, almost boring, and then suddenly you're looking back thinking, wait, when did all of that happen? A year goes by, someone changes, you change, and you don't even remember the exact moment it started. That's usually when I start thinking about the phrase, memento mori, remember that you're going to die. I know that sounds like a weird thing to talk about, especially for me, considering the fact that I'm a commentary YouTuber. It's not really small talk, but honestly, it's one of those ideas that sounds a lot darker than it actually is. Because every time I really sit down and I think about it, it doesn't make life feel smaller. It makes it feel a lot more sharper, it makes it feel a lot more valuable. How special would a high school graduation be if you went through it 5 times? The Stoics talked about this all the time. Forgive me if I butcher this pronunciation, but Marcus Aurelius. And what's interesting is he wasn't writing for an audience. He was writing to himself. Reminders he needed to just get through the day without losing perspective. And I think that's important because memento mori was never meant to be a lesson you teach someone. It's something you quietly remind yourself of when life starts feeling a little bit off. We spend so much time acting like we have unlimited chances, unlimited time, unlimited retries. We tell ourselves we'll deal with things later and we'll fix it eventually. We'll say the thing when it feels easier, but later has this way of never really showing up. There's this old Roman tradition where after a general won a huge victory, someone would stand behind him during the celebration and whisper that he was mortal. Not to kill the mood, but just to keep him grounded, to stop him from believing the moment would last forever. And honestly, that kind of feels relevant right now. That's not because we're generals or anything, but because we live in a world that constantly tells us to forget we're temporary. We're always planning, always chasing, always distracted. There's always something next, something better, something more important just around the corner. And without realizing it, we start living like this moment doesn't really count. The Stoics were kind of obsessed with control, or more specifically, knowing what isn't in your control. Death sits right there, completely out of reach. You can't negotiate with it, you can't delay it, you can't outwork it. But what you can control is how seriously you take the time before it shows up. And I don't mean that in a dramatic way, not like live every day like it's your last. That sounds exhausting. Nobody actually lives like that. I mean more like paying attention, because once you accept that this ends, really accept it, a lot of things lose their grip on you. Stuff that used to feel huge starts feeling kind of small. Arguments don't hit the same anymore. Proving yourself feels less important. Ego doesn't feel worth the energy. I think for me, when I realized this is when I became a wildland firefighter. We were on the side of this hill and a spot fire blew up. It was getting windy. Trees, maybe about 50 to 60 to 70 feet behind us, started a torch. We were in the middle of a grass field. One of the guys came up to me on the crew. Hey man, what do we do if, those trees that are starting the torch, like what if the grass catches? What are we gonna do? And I said, hope it doesn't. A little bit after that conversation, I got assigned to be the lookout on that fire. I kept on seeing the fire behind my crew grow. Thankfully, there is a hotshot crew that went and took that fire out. Being in a situation like that multiple times, that being the most vivid in my memory, knowing in the back of my head, like, holy shit, this is serious. I could actually not make it home. And the only thought in my head was, if this is it, I hope that at least the top half of my body doesn't burn, so that way my family can see my head at my funeral. That was what I was thinking about. My life wasn't flashing before my eyes. I kind of just accepted it. I wasn't freaking out. I got this weird state of clarity. I have to die, and this might be the time when I do. Back to the main point. Forgive me for butchering his name once again. Marcus Aurelius used to remind himself that everyone around him was temporary, the people who annoyed him, the people he loved, himself included. And when you look at people that way, it's harder to stay angry for long. You start thinking, is this really how I want to spend this moment? Memento mori changes how you treat people too, whether you mean for it to or not. You realize that conversations aren't guaranteed to repeat, that some moments are quietly one-time things, even if they don't feel important while they're happening. The text you didn't answer, that call you've been putting off, that thing you've been meaning to say, but you don't want to make awkward. There's a Stoic idea that goes something like, don't delay being the person you want to be, because time doesn't care about your intentions. And the older you get, the more you realize that. But what I like about memento mori is that it doesn't demand anything from you. It doesn't tell you what to believe. It just kind of sits there in the background, like a quiet reminder. That makes things feel more meaningful. You appreciate small stuff more. The Stoics believe gratitude comes naturally when you stop assuming tomorrow is owed to you. When you stop treating time like something you own instead of something you're borrowing. They didn't fear death. They feared wasting life. They feared wasting life, spending it distracted, resentful, or asleep at the wheel. I think that's really what memento mori points to. Not death itself, but awareness. The time is going to pass no matter what you do with it. Being here while you're here, not rushing through the days like they're just obstacles on the way to something better. One day, all of this ends. That part's unavoidable. But until then, you get these moments, ordinary ones, quiet ones, messy ones. They matter more than we usually give them credit for. Memento Mori is not just a warning, it's not a threat, it's just a reminder that you have to die. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the topic. I felt like my video yesterday, I felt like it was good, you know, it came out how I wanted it to, but it's not really what I wanted to talk about because it just kind of felt like slop. That's not what I'm going for. I want to talk more about videos that mean something to me and not just like, hey, like this Jake Paul fight happened. like I want to talk about videos about topics I actually give a shit about, and Memento Mori is something that I think about quite a lot. If you guys enjoy this, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peaceage.